So I recently posted a video talking about Eddie Hearn's accusations towards IFL TV, and namely Umar, about the way in which Umar probes and questions Eddie Hearn's rivals, and the way in which Kugan Cassius tends to probe and question Eddie Hearn, and the discrepancies and biases within that dynamic, right? But I've watched that video back, and I feel it's quite important that I make this one as a follow-up, and I'll explain why in the main bit of the video itself. But before I talk about the subject, my name's Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. Now, look, I was very close to deleting the video that I posted yesterday. And it's not because I felt as though I did myself a disservice in any way. I don't feel like I misrepresented my own opinion in any way. I just feel as though my video yesterday wasn't very concise in sharing my opinion on the matter, right? Now, I suppose the premise of the opinion that I was trying to share is this. Eddie Hearn is well aware that IFL TV aren't a media organisation that are trying to adhere to a strict code of morals and ethics. He understands that some of the people working for this organisation that interview boxers and promoters and people in the industry, some of the people that work for them aren't actually professional journalists or reporters. So you can't hold them to those standards. More importantly, because he understood way back when what IFL TV are and took them for what they are, which is a media outlet that covers the sport of boxing, and I'm going to repeat myself here, that aren't trying to adhere to a strict code of morals and ethics. He used that to his advantage throughout his growth, because IFL were given access that standard media organizations don't get, and the content that they produced and put onto YouTube helped him grow into the personality that he is now, which in turn helped his boxing promotion grow to the point where it currently is. Right. The other point that I was trying to make is the fact that IFL TV rely on access, and I can understand why they are scared to probe certain individuals within the industry, because they're apprehensive about that access being removed. We've already seen it happen in the past when Frank Warren banned IFL TV for a period. And they have unprecedented access to Tyson Fury, which I believe is because of they both have a connection. When I say they both, Tyson Fury and IFL have a connection to MTK Global, obviously. And I feel as though they don't want to rock the boat too much and lose that access to Tyson Fury, which is why they don't probe and prod Tyson Fury on his inconsistencies and on his contradictions that he's said in the past, right? Now, I've said that in 3 minutes, and it took me like 15 minutes to say it yesterday. So that's effectively the point I was trying to make. But I think it's important to clarify, because in all of the stuff that I said yesterday, I don't feel as though I made a strong enough of a case or a strong enough of an argument to show that I 100% agree with Eddie Hearn in his assessment of how IFL TV go about questioning the likes of Frank Warren and Tyson Fury and people that are his rivals, right? Now, I said yesterday that I feel as though for some reason Umar is the guy that's a designated Queensbury reporter, and I use the word reporter very loosely, and he's the one that tends to go out and do the interviews. And some of the points that I made yesterday is I struggle with Umar's interview style, the way he interviews people, because I feel as though he always inserts his opinion too much in a question, and I feel as though he doesn't always have the latest up-to-date information to hand when he's talking about current affairs in the sport with the person that he's interviewing, right? Now, aside from that, it's pretty obvious that when there is a contentious issue that needs to be raised to the likes of Frank Warren and Tyson Fury, that might cause a Frank Warren or Tyson Fury to lose their temper a little bit, he shies away from discussing those with them. I felt this for a number of months, years even, and Eddie Hearn's right. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that, because look, he had a golden opportunity when talking to Tyson Fury at the launch of this drink that they had a few days ago to just ask the simple question: is it true that you were not willing to fight Usyk next? Is that true? He had the opportunity to ask Frank Warren, Frank, according to Eddie Hearn, you guys had a deal in place in principle, and then it was brought to light that Tyson Fury intended to have an interim fight before facing Usyk, which is why Matchroom decided they wanted more money. Is this true? It's not difficult. Like, I've just said it now in the last minute. I've said the two questions that he needed to ask. And I don't know whether he intentionally avoids asking open-ended questions, short, clear, concise questions, because he doesn't like the conflict and he just wants to have a laughy, jokey, jovial interview with these people. I'm not sure what it is, but the point that I made yesterday is he shouldn't have gone and interviewed Eddie Hearn and been aggressive in the way in which he was trying to question Eddie Hearn, and then a couple of days later prove Eddie Hearn right, because it just makes him look stupid. He went there to Eddie Hearn and he tried to have this debate about the way in which he questions people, and then he you know, to his credit, he did say to Eddie Hearn that what do you like to, oh, tell me whatever you want me to ask and I'll ask him. And Eddie Hearn kind of at that point said, I don't really care enough to play this game. Although I wish I wish at that point he did say or ask Frank Warren. This is what I wanted to ask Frank Warren, because he said it to Kugan Cassius a couple of days ago. He said to Kugan Cassius a couple of days ago, why don't you ask Frank Warren this? Why don't you ask Tyson Fury why he wasn't willing to fight Usyk next? Why he needed a warm-up fight? So I feel as though Eddie Hearn missed an opportunity at that point. But even so, right, it was obvious that Umar had watched that interview with Kugan Cassius, that Eddie Hearn did with Kugan Cassius, I should say. And it's obvious that Umar was rattled by the stuff that Eddie Hearn had said. And if Umar at that point is unable to read the room and understand the situation and understand where the conflict is between the two sides, Frank Warren and Tyson Fury and Eddie Hearn and AJ, if you can't understand it, is it because he doesn't want to understand it because he has an allegiance towards Tyson Fury and Frank Warren? Is it because he can't understand it because he what's the nicest way of saying this? Is it because he just doesn't have the fortitude to work out what's going on? But that doesn't even make sense, because Eddie Hearn said it clear as day. He said clear as day, ask these questions. This is what I want you guys to ask Frank Warren and Tyson Fury. Like, it's quite frustrating following the sport of boxing, because I enjoy it. It's almost like a soap opera when there's a half an hour interview with Frank Warren and then a couple of days later an hour with Eddie Hearn or whatever. Like, the back and forth, that's one of the things that I enjoy quite a bit about boxing. But it's frustrating when there's obvious bits of information that can be brought to light by asking the right questions, and those opportunities are missed because those topics are being avoided by the interviewers. And sometimes I get the feeling that there's certain people within the industry that like the idea of covering the sport because of what it brings, more so than actually covering the sport because of what it is. Does that make sense? So I feel as though certain individuals enjoy the glitz and the glam, and the social media followers, and being at events ringside, and having access to celebrity boxers and stuff like that. And they're less fans of the actual sport and the actual longevity of the sport, and actually what is, and actually having conversations with people that have power, that can make changes within the sport and bringing to light the contradictions, lies and bullshit that we often see in the sport. And that's a shame. And that's a shame. But yeah, that's kind of really, I just felt the need to do it because I felt as though I was trying to be respectful of Umar, because like I said, I don't know him, and like he must be a nice guy, right? Because a lot of people have a lot of time for him, and I don't like calling people out, like I don't like doing it, but I feel as though it's warranted because of the way that he decided he needed to interview Eddie Hearn the other day, and he went and then proved Eddie Hearn right. It didn't really bode well for him, in my opinion, anyway. But look, people have commented on my previous video, and you're right, and I should read out your names, to be honest, because there's a guy that said all this waffle, and then there was quite a lot of waffle. I'm not gonna lie to you, there was quite a lot of waffle in my previous video, and you're right for calling me out on it. So what is your name? Joe Lasisi, is that your name? Yeah, Joe Lasisi, you were right. You're right about my previous video. I hope this one is a better reflection of my opinion, because I think it's important to not forget that I believe it's very important to remember that Eddie Hearn is fully aware of what IFL TV are. And although he's well within his rights to be calling them out on their inconsistencies, I suppose the point I'm trying to make is because of what they are, it's difficult to expect better from them, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's kind of all I really wanted to add. So again, feel free to comment below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Like, share, all of that stuff. I always repeat things and I always get it wrong because I don't really have a proper outro. But on that note, I'm going to bugger off and I'll catch you guys on the next one.